Hey guys, welcome back for another reaction. Today I'll be reacting to 10 things to know about everyday life in Finland. Let's get into this.
In this video, I will tell you about 10 small but still I think important details about everyday life in Finland. These things are nothing revolutionary, but I hope that keeping them in mind will make your relocation to Finland just a bit smoother. What's up guys and welcome back to the channel. If this is the first time we're meeting, my name is Oliver and I'm a master's student in economics at Aalto University in Finland. And on this channel we talk about education and early career development, specifically here in Finland. So if you are new here, do consider subscribing. Before we jump into today's topic, let me thank Aalto University for sponsoring this, and I really can more information about studying in Finland. I really want to outline this to some of you only, and I just wanted to show the first thing to keep in mind is that in Finland, you actually have to wave at a bus to make it stop. I know.
What?
This is revolutionary stuff right here. This is just one
Why?
of those super small details that will either be a complete no-brainer or alternatively come as a complete surprise when you experience it for the first time. So while being a minute detail in your everyday life, I've heard way too many stories of people not realizing this because buses in their home countries stop at every bus stop, regardless of
Yeah.
being indicated to do so or not. Also, a funny cultural detail, trams in Helsinki do stop at every stop if the driver sees people waiting at the stop. This is usually taken for granted, and indicating a tram to stop actually looks really funny for many, as it is automatically assumed that trams stop regardless. So the second thing to
Yeah,
keep
that's
in
what I
mind is
thought.
that the public transportation system in Finland is very well managed and it usually works like
Oh,
clockwork. Again, this feels
wow,
really weird for me to
really?
mention out loud, but I've heard many people talk about the fact that in Finland you can actually trust the public transit timetables. So if the timetables say that a bus is supposed to arrive to your stop at 11:23, it should be there at 11:23 sharp, not sooner, not later.
Wow,
Often, if a bus or a tram is
that's
late even for
nice.
a minute, you can see the locals dig up their phones from their pockets and try to check out for the reason for the delay. So not only do you get the timetables for each bus, tram, train, and metro printed at each stop, many local public transit companies also have a native mobile app that has updated information on each shift so that you are always aware of the updated schedules for them. For example, if they are delayed due to bad traffic or an
Ah,
accident. Moving down the list to topic number.
that is really nice to know. Like, it's always annoying when you're waiting for a train or bus and they're late. That's annoying. Especially when it's late for more than 5 minutes. That's not cool. And also for the bus stop, do you really have to always wave for them to stop, or they will just stop when they see people at the bus stop? Or they don't stop if you won't wave them to stop? That's very interesting. I have to know that.
3. Please be aware that in Finland we actually eat lunch and dinner quite early in the day, and this
How
impacts the opening
early?
hours of restaurants around the country. So starting with lunch, it usually starts quite early, with many lunch places opening already at 10:30 a.m. and
Oh
closing their
my
kitchen
gosh.
around 3 p.m. Usually the busiest hours are between 11 to 1 o'clock when most people
That's
head
really
out for
early.
lunch. This goes to both work life and university campus restaurants, and you usually see the most amount of people heading for lunch at a university directly after the morning lectures that end around 11 or 12. All right, the next thing to take into account is that
Yeah,
Finland has some of the best
that's so early. That's already my lunch. But yeah, at least they don't close until 3 o'clock, right? When they close at 3 o'clock, though, did they open again at like 4:30? I'm really curious
quality
now.
tap water in the world, and there is
Oh, I've
absolutely
heard
no
this.
reason to buy bottled water to your home or to go
Yeah,
unless you want it with bubbles or as flavored. Not only is the
that's
Finnish tap water
nice.
completely tasteless, it is also such high quality that there is no need to decalcify or filter it before drinking. In practice, this means that Finnish grocery stores don't usually even sell these large water jugs because there's simply no
Yeah.
market for them. Most of the water sold in stores is actually either sparkling or flavored, and a good rule of thumb is that bottled water is as expensive as soft drinks, and thus it does not really make any sense to buy
Really?
water when you can get it for free from your home or from any
Yeah.
public taps. If you like to drink a
That is so true. Why would they sell it or why would you buy it at the store if it's totally free? And I've heard that it tastes so good. Like it's one of my comments before. Somebody said that the tap water in Finland tastes so good. That's really interesting. I want to try it.
lot of water during the day, a good tip is to always keep your own water bottle with you so that you can fill it up at any public taps. For example, carrying a
Oh,
water bottle at the university just makes more sense as it prevents you from buying expensive bottled water throughout the day. Also, good to know, since tap
yeah.
water is so cheap in Finland, it is normal that restaurants and cafes don't charge anything for it. For example, if you want to fill your own bottle with water after having a cup of coffee, you can usually just ask the barista if they would be so kind to fill your bottle for you. In some rare
That's
cases, they will not
nice.
do
Real
so, but
nice.
also a lot of the times, cafes also have their own tap that you can use as much as you want after making a purchase. All right, moving on to the next thing. It is good
That's
to know
good.
that alcohol in Finland can only be sold in stores between 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. So Finland has
Oh,
some of
there's
the strictest
timeline.
alcohol laws in Europe, and this time restriction is one of those things that get a lot of people in trouble, especially during these long summer evenings when you simply want to get a bottle of
Uh-oh.
wine, but then you notice that damn, it's already 9 and it is impossible to buy alcohol outside of restaurants. In addition, it is important to know that
Good thing I don't drink, so I don't have to know about this. But yeah, it's still interesting that there's a rule about buying
grocery
alcohols.
stores are only allowed to sell alcoholic beverages that are at maximum 5.5% strong. Everything else is sold by the government-owned
Oh,
company called Alko, which has a national monopoly in strong alcoholic beverages. This means that all wines, spirits, and,
interesting.
for example, strong beers have to be bought from Alko. All right, the next thing that is good to know is that most grocery stores have product names usually only in Finnish and Swedish. This is something that you should really take into
Oh,
account before going
I
into
think
a
I've heard
grocery
this
store
one, but
or
it's
a market
interesting.
for the first time, as it might be somewhat confusing to find the right products that you are looking for. Here, my recommendation is simply that you should be proactive and ask for help from the staff at least during the first few times in order
That
to
would be
get
the best.
familiarized with the local products. Next up, I've heard that many
Yeah, that would be the best way to figure it out.
people, and especially those who are used to using Amazon, find quite irritating is that home deliveries that do not fit through your mail slot are not, in general, delivered to your door. Instead, in Finland,
Where
it is more
then?
common that deliveries are either sent to your closest post office or to these automated post parcel lockers that you can usually find in your closest grocery store
Really?
or market. While some people find this a bit frustrating, I personally find
Yeah.
that these lockers are actually really handy because they are not only for receiving packages but also for sending them. This means that if you have to send a package or perhaps return a product from an online store, you do not have to queue at your local post office, but rather you can simply do this at the closest grocery store. All right, so the next
That is so interesting. Like, why don't they just put it directly at your doorstep? Well, I guess it would be easier to put it in the locker when nobody's there, but if you're at home, why don't they just put it on your doorstep or like knock your door,
thing to
right?
know about everyday life in Finland is that cash is used less and less in Finland, and in many places, cash is actually no
Oh,
longer even accepted. Just as an example, some of the
really?
campus restaurants at Aalto University no longer accept cash, but rather the
That's
only ways to
nice.
pay are by card or contactless payment services like Apple Pay. Do note that some international cards and many contactless payment services do not work in Finland, and not using a card or a service provided by a bank operating in Finland can sometimes restrict your payment methods. This is also one of the reasons I really recommend that if you are staying in Finland for longer than a year, you should consider getting a Finnish bank account and a local debit or credit card. These will allow you to
Makes
use the local
sense.
payment services, which in turn will make your everyday life just a bit easier. All right, the next thing.
That is so nice because I know there's countries that don't accept cards, so it's kind of annoying when it's all cash. So you have to carry cash all the time. So it's nice when there's place that only take cards because I'm a cashless person and I think it's convenient that way and easier, right?
On this list is that in Finland, tipping is not mandatory nor expected. In Finland,
Ah,
servers are paid a decent hourly
that's
wage, and a
nice.
service charge is already added in hotel and restaurant bills. Normally, Finnish people tip
Nice.
only if they wish to appreciate an exceptionally good service or a delicious meal. However, this is not obligatory, and no one will be offended if you do not do so. All right, the last thing on this list
That's
is that in
cool.
Finland we celebrate.
That's really cool because in the US, you have to tip like 10% to 20%. I actually don't mind tipping, especially when the waiter is really nice and very helpful. But I just hope that there's no mandatory like 10% to 20%. So it's nice to hear like there's countries like this.
A ton of different holidays around the year. So many of these national or
Wow,
religious
that's
holidays
nice.
impact how different stores and businesses are open. These holidays, which are in general called pyhäpäivä in Finnish, usually mean that either businesses are closed for the day or they have shorter opening hours. This means that it is recommended to do all shopping prior to the holidays themselves, as getting a bottle of wine or other necessities can turn out to be a challenge, as stores might not be open at all. Whether or not businesses stay
Interesting.
open depends on the specific holidays, and you can find more information on the different national holidays from infofinland.fi. I have the link in the description box below. I at least recommend that you check out the most commonly celebrated holidays and mark them in your calendars just to make sure that you don't miss them out. All right,
Oh,
that is it.
yeah.
These were the 10 things that I.
That was a really informative video, and I'll try to remember all of this stuff when I made it to Finland one day. But yeah, see you guys next time. Bye.